Dr. Nardi here, back with another video. Last time we established that psychology is a science, but what does the scientific process actually look like? When we think of science, we often picture a rigid, linear checklist: question, hypothesis, experiment, conclusion. But in reality, it's much more dynamic and cyclical. Today, we're going through an overview of the scientific method as a complete process. We'll look at how researchers find their ideas, how they develop testable questions, and how their work fits into the bigger picture of scientific knowledge. The best way to think about scientific research is not as a straight line, but as a circle. It's a continuous cycle where one research project leads to the next. This model starts with a research question. The researcher then conducts an empirical study to answer that question. After collecting data, they perform a data analysis, which leads to conclusions. Finally, and this is the crucial part, these conclusions become part of the research literature, where they can spark new questions for other scientists, and the cycle begins all over again. Think of it like a global conversation. Each published study is a statement, and future studies are the replies, clarifications, and arguments that keep the conversation moving forward. So how does a researcher join this conversation? Where do their initial ideas come from? There are three common sources: informal observations. Ideas can come from simply observing the world around you and asking questions about what you see. You might notice that you're more productive when you listen to music without lyrics and wonder if that's true for everyone. Practical problems. Research is often inspired by real-world problems that need solutions. For example, the rise of remote work might lead to questions about how to improve team collaboration and prevent burnout. Previous research. This is the most common source of inspiration for professional researchers. Reading what other scientists have already discovered can reveal gaps in our knowledge, unanswered questions, or controversies that need resolving. To find those gaps, researchers must do a thorough review of the research literature, all the published research in their field. The go-to resources are professional journals, which contain two main types of articles: empirical research reports, which describe one or more new studies in detail; review articles, which summarize previously published research on a topic. This review process is essential. It helps researchers see what's already known, refine their own questions, and get ideas for how to design their study. A literature review helps turn a broad topic into a good research question. A question isn't good just because it's interesting. It must also be practical. We can evaluate questions on two main criteria: interestingness and feasibility. Interestingness. A question is interesting if the answer is in doubt. If everyone already knows the answer, there's no point in researching it. It's also more interesting if the answer has important practical implications. Feasibility. This is about whether you can realistically answer the question given your constraints. Do you have enough time, money, equipment, and expertise to conduct the study? You might have a fascinating question about the psychology of astronauts on Mars, but it's not feasible for most to study. Once you have a good question, you can develop a hypothesis, which is a specific prediction about the relationship between two or more variables. It's a tentative answer to your research question that you can then test. For a hypothesis to be scientific, it must be both testable and falsifiable. Testable means you can actually measure the variables. Falsifiable means you can imagine a result that would prove the hypothesis wrong. For example, the hypothesis studying with background music increases test scores is falsifiable because you could find that it decreases scores or has no effect at all. With a testable hypothesis, the next step is designing the study. This involves making concrete decisions about how you'll manipulate and measure your variables. A key concept here is the operational definition. An operational definition is a definition of a variable in terms of precisely how it will be measured. Many variables in psychology are abstract, like stress, happiness, or memory. To study them, we must define them operationally. For instance, stress could be operationally defined as a person's score on a stress questionnaire or their level of the stress hormone, cortisol, in their saliva. Once the design is set, the researcher recruits participants, collects the data, and then analyzes it, usually with statistics. These analyses help them draw conclusions about whether their hypothesis was supported. The final step is to publish the research. The researcher writes up their study and submits it to a professional journal where it undergoes a rigorous peer review process. If it's accepted, it becomes part of the research literature. And that's how we come full circle. That published article is now part of the previous research that another scientist will read, sparking a new question and starting the entire process over again. So the scientific method isn't just a simple recipe. It's a dynamic, cyclical, and collaborative process that allows our understanding of the world to grow and correct itself over time. What's a question about human behavior you've always wanted a scientific answer to? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.